You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
Todd Richards here, Roots, Hearts,
and Soul.
You are listening to Roots, Heart, and
Soul. Yeah,
Roots,
baby.
Heart, and Soul podcast.
Stephan and I are launching this podcast based off cookbook Roots, Heart, and Soul by myself, Todd Richards, with a great help from Chef Stephan.
We're going to be hearing stories from Africa all the way to the Caribbean, all the way to the Americas. It's going to be something special.
Todd Richards here. Of course, we're waiting for the great Chef Stephan to join us back. Roots, Heart, Soul podcast on Heritage Radio Network. It's really just a great day, great summer day to be here in Atlanta. They call it Hot Atlanta for a reason. That's the nickname, but really, it's hotter than Hades, than I expected it to be. Especially when you see so many things going around the world, rain everywhere, all these things happening. But we are doing great here in Atlanta. Saw the watermelon man the other day. His watermelon looking great. Saw some other farmers. Their food is looking great. Peaches, of course. You know, everyone knows Atlanta as Georgia as the peach state, but it's just crazy to see the quality of peaches that are here this year. It's unbelievable, the quality of peaches that we're getting here. And they're ripening so fast, so juicy, so delicious, such a great thing. And here's my man, the great Chef Stephan. He's joined us. Welcome, my friend, my brother, my colleague, you know. Are you there, Stephan?
Yeah.
There you are. The great Chef Stephan here on Roots, Heart, and...
What's going on?
Oh, man, life is great. I was just filling everyone in how hot it is. And so, right? And so, filling everyone how great it is to be in Atlanta right now.
It's hot. It's hot.
I mean, they put in the H-O-N-T in hot,
man.
Right? Yeah. So, what's going on, my friend?
New York is doing the same. New York is doing the same thing, man.
And you guys had a bad rainstorm, bad flood the other day, right?
Yeah, New York is hot as hell too.
Wow.
So, you know,
New York
is hot as hell.
No, all too well. So what's happening? You know, we took a week off last week.
Nothing much. Yeah. Couple of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We took a week off. There's a lot going on. Sometimes our personal lives get in the way of what we need to do when it comes to our professional lives. But it is what it is.
Right.
It is what it is.
One cocktail,
so
one plate of food.
I've been.
One
cocktail, one plate of food.
So you said, go ahead.
I could use a cocktail right about now, man. I haven't been able to touch anything alcohol in the last 2 weeks.
Wow.
Anything alcohol in the last 2 weeks, given that I was being pumped with antibiotics.
Yeah. Well, you said I haven't had alcohol in the last 2 weeks, and you started coughing. I think your liver was like, thank God, It's been a while.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man. Well, it's good to catch up with you, my brother. This is episode 37.
man.
37.
37.
It's great. The summer it seems to be a slowdown, but actually it's hot and heavy when it comes to the food world, agriculture world. We're hearing all the feedback from the Essence Festival this year. A lot of our friends went down there, colleagues. just it seems to be some divide between cultural conflicts, which I don't understand at all. But we'll get into all that today, as well as you talk to a couple of chefs and things like that, and really just got some things on your mind you want to express, that you talk to the chef community and talk about those things. So let's get started. Let's get rolling. Let's get going on Roots Heart Soul Podcast,
Listen,
Heritage Radio Network. Let's go.
So I want to pick up. First of all.
Correct.
First of all, big shout out before we even get into a whole lot of conversation. Big shout out to our boy Fabrice Armand.
Yeah.
In Miami this weekend.
He's there with Creole Food Fest this weekend in Miami.
Who's preparing for Creole Food Fest? Miami. So I wanna urge everyone who follows us, who listens to us, to go and support. Very, very important. There's going to be some amazing events. There's a brunch going on. There is a grand tasting going on, and it's on South Beach with a jazz music fest happening together. So I think it's a great. If you're in Miami, this is a great date for you to go and enjoy some great food by some amazing Black and brown chefs, and at the same time, some great music, some great entertainment. So,
I mean, this is the third year for Miami. Is that, if I remember correctly? We did Miami last year, which was phenomenal. And shout out to the Miami.
It's actually our fourth year in Miami. It's actually Miami.
Yeah, shout out to Miami Fire Department, who helped me get my grill okay for the actual festival, because if it wasn't for them, I wasn't going to be able to cook. And I hate disappointing people, especially loyal fans that came down to see me in Miami. So, it was really great. They helped me get cleared and all that stuff to be able to cook out there and give people what they want. So, it's really great to see Miami this year again for Creole Food Fest. Of course, we both wish we could be there, but life is lifing, and we got to get going. So shout out to Fabrice and Tico as well, of course. So what else on your mind, my friend?
Absolutely,
what you got?
Absolutely. So I was reading a post from Chef Irie today.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can find it.
But just paraphrase for us. Tell us what he was saying.
So he was saying that, we should be reviewing some of these food bloggers, wannabe chefs who are on social media, because they are great at critiquing us professionals who are in the trenches every day, but yet they've never seen the inside of a kitchen, of a professional kitchen.
Okay.
I wish I could. I'm still looking for it, but that's pretty much the gist I got out of it.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I clarify what you're saying. That us as professionals in the food and beverage realm, especially chefs, should be able to critique the responses that we get from food bloggers and other chefs who are critiquing us.
No, but not really other chefs, other professional chefs who are critiquing us, because I don't think us as professional, we sit down and critique. We tend to really sit down and critique each other. I think it's the bloggers, it's the food influencers, it's the non-kitchen chefs, the ones that are on Instagram and TikTok. And nothing wrong with them doing their thing. Don't get me wrong. But until you've been inside of the kitchen, inside of a professional kitchen, there are just certain comments you shouldn't be making.
Okay, like what though? Because I hear where your stance is going, and I want to know what that really means though. Like, what does that really mean?
I think from Irie's perspective is that they are very critical of us. They are very critical that when they go to a restaurant or they go to or of the of the profession itself.
So, okay, I mean, so I'm gonna draw the parallel to the NBA. When we hear professional basketball players have a hard time listening to pundits such as like Stephen A. Smith critiquing basketball play, basketball moves, trades, and all that stuff. And they say, well, you never played the game of basketball at this level. What gives you the right to say these things? Is that kind of paraphrasing what you're saying?
That's a great way to start.
Okay.
That's a great way to start. Except that a guy like Stephen A.
Go ahead.
Except that a guy like Stephen A. to his defense, Stephen A. is a professional sports commentator.
He's a journalist.
So
right.
to be able to sit on ESPN, and other sportcasting show and talk about basketball, you got to have a real deep knowledge of basketball, even if you've never played the game. There are coaches who have never played the game but are professional coaches.
So they're qualified through what though? I mean,
but they've studied the game. They've studied the game. A coach who's never played basketball, but yet he's coaching in the National Basketball League. He has had a very deep. He's had to do a lot of studying.
Okay, so what is the qualification for a
professionally?
Okay, so what is the qualification for a food blogger in order to be a food blogger? I mean, we understand the New York Times, with Pete Wells. We understand Chicago, with John Kessler. We understand all that. We understand Keith Lee. I mean, who's not trained. He was a boxer. He was MMA, but people have him as a holy grail. Mr. Chimetime as a holy grail. We go on and on. What is the qualifications in order to be a critique of food?
I think you have to have a deeper knowledge of the food that you're critiquing, and not just say, hey, I love food and I can critique whoever I want.
But isn't that the pure definition of social media? Pure definition of social media is that it's a social conversation about things I want to cover.
True that. You do have a point.
I mean,
I just think that if to all due respect to Keith Lee and some of these other social influencers that go into a restaurant and they taste the food and they critique it based on their own experience. If you critique something based on your own experience, it's different. But if you're going to critique the chef, its techniques, it's if you're going to go into a deeper critique, you need to have some deeper knowledge of what you're critiquing about. It's like sending.
Go ahead.
It's like sending somebody to go critique a Michelin star restaurant who's never been to a Michelin star restaurant. How do you compare them?
Well, very easily. If that's your first experience, you talk about your first experience. I mean, I'm sure you know your first experience of a Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
All right. And now are you comparing every Michelin star restaurant to that first experience?
Actually, I'm not.
Right. That's the same because you've done. I get it. I get the premise of what you're saying. I get the premise of what Chef Irie is saying. I'm also that I have the thought though that people have the premise based off of their life experiences and the money that they worked hard to pay. And the nature of what restaurants are is not the same that what restaurants were when you and I grew up in this business. We're in we're less um, we're less about food and even beverage to a standpoint. We're more about understanding who our guests are, and you just can't say build it and they will come anymore. There's too many
No.
options. There's too many. There's way too many options. And everyone's a critic. They've always been a critic. They just have a place to write down or tell their story. I mean, know this. I know this. Every person that comes in there is a different critic. And the ones who spend the most money are not necessarily the ones who are the most sophisticated or into our techniques or a way of cooking. They just have money to buy more things. That doesn't mean that they're more sophisticated. They might have more money to go into more restaurants. Doesn't mean their palate is refined. But you also seen people who work in our kitchens who come from impoverished backgrounds who have the work ethic in order to actually become great chefs. I mean, I get it. It's so hard right now, Stephan. What you're saying. It's so hard to understand. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has a megaphone. But what are the qualifications in order for somebody to be a food critic? I think is really what you're getting down to. And I do have an issue with everyone being critiquing without us having a way to go and critique what they did.
Yeah.
Which might be I can't go to their job and necessarily critique what they're, but we're public figures and we under public scrutiny. But if they put a review about us, then okay, what is your job? What is your profession? And not to say I need to do for tick for tack, that's not really a way to look at it. But if I went to your place and critiqued you, how would you feel? To say something is nasty and just disgusting and all that stuff, those words, I mean, it's hard. It's hard.
Those words.
Yeah.
It's hard to swallow when you're when you are and even if you were getting I don't as professional chefs, I don't think we talk about each other that way. So why should we accept and even a professional food critic, someone who's been doing this all their lives as a career, don't talk that way. So why should we accept that from just anybody coming out of the woodwork who says they're an influencer or they're a food critic?
But the reality is that they all are influencers. Every guest we have come in is an influencer. They help us. They help people they know make decisions about eating at our restaurants. The platform in which they have is multiple, and it's their opinion. I mean, the thing is that what we have to do is find what is our value in their opinion, and what does their opinion have value to? There's some that have more value than others. I mean, I look at Atlanta, and I study this pretty well, and I can tell you the top 15 food influencers in Atlanta, and I would say that probably 10 of them, the influencing thing is a second job. And globally, what's the payola? Are these honest reviews, or are they being invited to give a good review? I mean, what is the standard of these reviews and these critics? I agree with that kind of scrutiny that you're talking about. I definitely agree that what is the standard? How transparent do they have to be? Do they put a disclaimer that I did not pay for anything in this restaurant when I did this review? I mean, did they say that? No, there's no standard for that understanding. We understand when, it's a newspaper or even the online platforms like Eater and Infatuation and all that stuff like that, that they pay for their own food. There's no unsolicited, things come in and all that stuff. I get it. But there's a certain payola that goes on, just like it did in the music business and TV business, that happens in restaurants. That are the influencers actually buying this themselves, or are they being treated and they just get clout for being an influencer? That is a part of the question that you raised that I have issue with. There's no disclaimer.
No.
There's actually no disclaimer about, and it goes to your question about qualifications. If someone paid you to give this review, then you ain't filing on your taxes. I know that's for damn sure. There ain't no 1099s going out. Like you doing 2 restaurants a week, $150 value. That's you over $6,000 in comps. Is that you doing a 1099 for that?
No.
I'm just saying.
Most people probably won't.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Most people probably won't.
I mean, what do you think? I mean, you seem like you're opposed to it.
No, I just think that whoever you are critiquing, whether you are doing it on a professional level or you're doing it as something completely amateurist, there needs to be an understanding of what you're critiquing and why you're critiquing it. Okay? I don't think just critiquing for critiquing creates a purpose other than you.
But you say that people are critiquing for critiquing?
I think a lot of people critique to critique because they have the ability to do so.
Okay.
You may not have a clue about the food business other than eating, and you're on social media to get, you call yourself an influencer, and we're talking about food right now, but it could be anything. It could be anything.
But Stephan, but you and I both know
how am I going to sit there and critique? Let's put it this way. Let's take it a different. Let's look at it a different perspective.
Okay. I want to hear this one.
Let's talk about
I want to go back to food
in general.
I want to go back to food.
Sit there and critique a painter.
Right. Go ahead.
How do you sit there and critique a painter if you don't have a clue about painting in general? There has to be some understanding of what you are commenting about. We were just talking about basketball. Who the hell are you to be commenting about basketball if you don't have any kind of knowledge about it?
Of basketball? Okay. So you and I both know that I'm going to say 95%. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but 95% of people who do critiques do not own restaurants or not in the food service business. Correct?
Who have never been in the food service business.
I'm not going to say never been, because they could have a high school job or something like that where they worked at some fast food place. I'm just going to say they're not currently in the food business right now, right? Right?
You could say that.
All right. As far as diners go into our restaurants, I'm going to say that 95% of them are not currently working in a restaurant or some type of food service establishment. So if our guests
True.
are all critics, the platforms that they use to express their critiques is of their own volition. I mean, I have less interest. I have less volatility against someone giving me a honest critique than I do that a person who says that they're an influencer who is being on payola from the restaurant has that much influence on if someone comes in my restaurant or not. That is my issue with what you're talking about. But everyone
There
who
you
has
go.
a critic about what happens or their experience, I see that every day. You see it every day. We both see it every day, and you know that is the. Are you influencing? What is the criteria of being an influencer? I mean, what is your criteria? If you come here and say, well, I'm going to order off the menu and everything like that, and I'm going to leave gratuity and things like that, and I'm only going to order one appetizer, one entree, one dessert, and they're going to, treat me as, and even if the restaurant comps it, it's just that plain and simple. That's one thing, But the payola, come on, man. And I get it. It's part of American culture. It's always been about American culture. So that's my take on it. But it seems. I mean, I really want to get Irie on here and talk about what he thinks because it's pervasive throughout.
I would love. I would love to connect him as well. I think it would be a great conversation to have. And I think you have a point there that if you are being completely honest and it's coming out of your heart, it's coming out of your experience, you went into a restaurant, you paid for your food, and you are honestly giving your feedback to what your experience was, and you are sharing that with the world on whatever platform it is that you love to use.
Mhm.
I can stomach that.
Right.
I can
Okay.
stomach that as a professional chef. I can probably stomach that more as a professional chef than somebody who is telling me that they're like you were saying, that they're an influencer or they're a, and they get to make major, they get to create the fluctuation of, their fluctuation of people, whether they come to you.
Yeah.
And
I
that's
mean,
where we may have a problem.
well, I mean, the integrity of it that, when you look at all the awards, and I
I think there
know
needs
that
to be some, and here's the word,
Mhm.
integrity. If the content is completely has integrity in it, I'm cool with that.
I mean, but most people don't understand that this happens, and I think it's willful ignorance, um, to say so. But the fact that there are critics out there, every person that walks in the door is a critic. Why do you get any special treatment because you're an influencer or a food critic and things like that? I find issue with that because you're going to judge me on the merits and judge me on the merits. If you're not, or you're going to put a disclaimer and say that, hey, I took payola in order to do so, then that's fine. I can respect that too. What your point is, it's difficult sometimes as chefs to respect people critiquing us when they have no idea what it took for us to
What
actually do.
to actually get there, or to actually do what we do
And
on a
there,
daily basis.
And it's not like other art forms of music and things that are permanent arts where you put it on there, it's permanently structured there. A tomato today don't taste like the tomato tomorrow. Don't taste like this tomorrow. Don't taste like that tomorrow. But I know we're moving on here. We're 30 after hour Roots Heart Soul podcast. Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great chef Stephan here, and we're just having a great conversation about food critics and critiquing and things like that. And we're moving on to the next half an hour about food sourcing and stuff like that. That it ties into the first thing is that what is the American palate though based off on? Because fast food is supposed to be a consistent model that moves forward. Everything tastes the same, and then you have the casual dine or the commercial dining. You have a new CEO at Red Lobster and places like that. So for us who are straight from the source type of restaurants. And some people might label it farm to table, or they might label it, chef driven or things like that. That a tomato today may not be the tomato tomorrow. The watermelon today may not be,
Absolutely.
the size of fish, it may not be the same size. Everyone is talking about catfish and people serving sway, and what people don't realize that sway is easier to even farm than catfish. That's why people do it. Those things like that. What are we supposed to do as professional chefs, in our independently owned restaurants to get people to understand that our food sources are from live food sources and not just this factory farm stuff that should supposedly always taste the same because it's commercially done. I know it's a mouthful, right?
And no, and do they even understand not only the cost of that particular food from one sourcing to the other, but also that the flavor is completely different. The how you treat the product is completely different. Um, you know how you transform it, how you touch it, is going to be completely different. A chef who understands a trout coming from wild water or a trout that's being farm raised is going to treat that trout differently. Is going to put less on it because he wants the natural flavor of that trout to come out and create an experience for you who's about to eat it.
Mm. Mm. Wow.
To where every trout in a pond that is being farm raised tastes exactly the same.
Wow.
Because they eat everything the same every day. They are treated the same every day. They are not in wild waters. The minerals and all kinds of things that are in natural water, it's not going to be the same in a water that stands still.
Do you? So and you've been in and out the South, for the last couple of years, traveling back and forth to New York, but the multitude of barbecue restaurants, here in the South, where smoke, there's a lot of things, the hot chicken, a lot of these things were crafted to make up for bad ingredients. And now that we can get a great source for a lot of these ingredients, where is it going though? Like, where is the quality? Where's the knowledge of quality going? Because I believe that might be a bigger issue that you talking about when we're talking about social media critics. What is their responsibility of spreading the food source knowledge, or is that only on us to do?
I don't think they're even aware of that. So and again, that was my previous premise, is that if you don't have a darn clue about anything food other than being an eater, okay? If you've never been to a farm, if you've never spoken to a farmer on how they grow their vegetables, if you've never spoken to a farmer who raises cattle, and he can explain to you how the one cattle is treated from another cattle, based on origins, like for example Wagyu, and there are different levels of Wagyu. There's different types of Wagyu. But for us, the person that's eating Wagyu is Wagyu.
Absolutely.
What do I care about you feeding him beer or you're massaging his belly every single day, and the investment that you've put into raising the toppest quality of beef, so that I can give you that experience. Because at the end of the day, who is the final person that receives all this work that we put into creating these products and these dishes? The final person is the eater.
Absolutely.
Is the person that comes to our restaurant.
Yeah,
is the person that comes to the dining table. And if that person would even have a slight understanding of how this product went from here to here, how it's been treated, how it's been produced, how it's been, then we would have a different attitude about what we eat and how we eat as well.
Well, whose responsibility is to educate them? I mean, the average eater is worked hard.
But I think people want to be. If you want to be educated, you want to be educated. And if I'm
Go ahead.
and my knowledge of barbecue is based on my experience in living in the Caribbean. But barbecue in the Caribbean, although the word barbecue itself comes from a Taino word, so that comes from, you're talking about hundreds of years ago, the way the Tainos wanted to conserve meat, and cook meat in a certain way. But barbecue today, when we talk about the South, is a different kind of barbecue. Although it takes certain techniques from the Tainos, from Africa, but it's a different style of barbecue. It takes a different style of knowledge. It takes a different understanding of you have to understand smoke versus fire. You have to understand that less is more, when you're seasoning that beef or that pork. So there is a deep knowledge and understanding of how to do Southern barbecue versus how to do jerk barbecue, for example.
But is barbecue the new fried chicken, in the sense that everyone thinks they can do it?
Yeah,
it
is.
Right?
It is. I could swear it is.
Okay. But it also leaves rise to why there's so many critics too. I mean, social media give critics the new platform, where there's New York Times was only one reviewer who had the power. LA, I forget Bill Addison was another great person who did reviews. I mean, there is only a certain amount of people that had the power, and now everyone has the power. Just like everyone thinks they can barbecue, and everyone thinks they can barbecue.
That
right?
they can. Yeah, everybody thinks today that they can barbecue just because. When there is a when you have to study, you have to study the greats. You have to have somebody who taught you how to do barbecue in order for you to understand how to do it at the highest level. Otherwise, you think every fried chicken is fried chicken.
Okay. I mean, I get it. I understand. I understand the relative points.
So I just think that if I'll put it this way, if I decide to tomorrow to be a food critic, forget that I'm a chef. I want to understand more about what I'm getting into as to decide that I'm going to be a food critic tomorrow. I want to understand food a little better. I want to read cookbooks. I want to talk to chefs. I want to have a sit down with them and understand what they go through on a daily basis, what it takes to put a restaurant together. Before I even go in there and sit and eat your food and decide that I'm going to critique it.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And
if I'm going to do this on a professional level, not just for the hell and fun of it, if I'm going to do this the right way, then I want to understand the business.
I get you, but also though, okay, so say, and I travel a lot, you travel a lot, right? And I take the train from Newark to DC, and I eat at the food carts in Amtrak, and they make a hot dog, right? And this hot dog I'm eating on the train is better than 85% of the hot dogs out there. I should still be able to write about that based on my experience and not really care about the I'm just saying it's an Amtrak, it's a train.
And it's
right.
an honest, and all you're doing is giving an honest rendition of your experience. I can stomach that anytime.
Okay. So but the issue is that you're raising is that these people claim to be professional reviewers of food and don't have the background.
That's where I have a problem.
Okay, now I gain what you're saying.
That's when we have a problem.
Okay.
That's when we have a problem. If I'm being honest about my experience tomorrow, hey, I went to Chef Todd's restaurant in Atlanta, and I didn't appreciate the service, and here is why. And I tasted X, Y, and Z, and it didn't do me any. It didn't excite me much. I'm doing this on an honest level with no other reason but to share my experience. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to go
ahead.
Into a deeper critique and say that I'm a professional reviewer of restaurants, I'm a professional critique of restaurants, you don't have a clue. You've never sat down with a chef and how he does it. I could have an issue with that.
What is the responsibility of that reviewer to come back and give that restaurant another try in order to have a more than one? I remember when they used to have first take, right? Places open, here's my first take of that restaurant. this, and this, and this, and this. This needs a little more work, and that's fine. And they come back in 3 months. Hey, this is my second take of this restaurant, and wow, this, that same dish they have on the menu they never fix. They need to take that off the menu. What is the responsibility then of that person? Because it seems to me that they go from place to place to place to place, so many places, like you don't even know what happened to the old place. And that's where I think I lose respect.
No, you don't.
From that standpoint, that damn, you just driving around every place,
Just for the hell of driving around
Right.
every place.
Right.
Before, we're getting close to the end of the hour here, bro.
Yeah.
And before we get into our closing, I noticed a comment from our friend and past guest, Chef Simeon Hall from the Bahamas. And the comment,
we ain't having no conch battles anymore. Okay, I just want to make sure that you guys.
The comment, very interestingly, is talking about something a little different.
Okay.
Even chefs have something to say about where this country is heading. Until the lion tells his story, the hunter will always be hero.
Okay. Wow. So even chefs have the thing is that we are part of the food chain that most people don't necessarily get into great detail about how intimate we have knowledge of the food chain, where the price of eggs went up and everyone's happy that the price of eggs went down. But the last report saying that they're still 27% higher than they were last year. The price of food everywhere is going higher, which means it costs more on the plate. And there's a break point in which guests are going to stop buying food in restaurants. You can see where in fast food chains that the dollar menus, which were prolific over the last year, probably the last 2 years of being promoted on TV, you don't even see those that much anymore because those deals are no longer good. It damn near bankrupted. It did bankrupt Red Lobster, their endless things, promotions. So we're in the middle of people. We are a receiver of food and we produce food. We create experiences for people. We understand America more intimately than most people will ever give us credit for. So I understand this point. I understand this point wholeheartedly. What do you think?
No, I think we're part. I think for me, I think what I'm getting from this message is that we're not only part of the ecosystem, but we understand, from sourcing from the farmer that is producing this egg to the middleman who is selling it to us receiving that egg and transforming it into something for me to sell it to you. We've seen how the cost level of everything can be a major deterrent to people coming to eat at our restaurant, because we have to price stuff the right way in order for us to be able to sell it and also make a living. We are part of we're part of the world ecosystem, and if we don't have a voice in what's going on, at least in the things that affect our world, in the things that are directly affecting our consumers, the people who come and grace us with their dollars to come eat at our restaurant, And the less dollars somebody has the freedom to spend outside of their home, the less guests we're going to see in our restaurants.
Yeah, but
And
you know,
jobs are
you got to
and
right to the
jobs are
point.
affected.
I mean, where's our stance on
And jobs are
immigration?
affected.
But where's our stance on immigration? I mean
That too.
that has to
That
be
too.
that has
Because
to be
because
the
here's
biggest
another
forefront.
because here's another
Right.
thing. Because here's another thing. Because most immigrants are the ones working in our restaurants.
Right.
Okay? Because
Go ahead.
the average person today doesn't want to work in this industry anymore.
Especially not in the back. But I mean, that to me is like if you talk
No,
about foodways,
especially not in the back.
right? When you talk about foodways, I
Especially
mean,
not in the back.
foodways is immigrants control foodways not only when they're cooking in the restaurants, but prior to even arriving to our door. That was
Talk about
controlled,
farmers.
right?
Who we don't see anybody in American bread who wants to go pick oranges and olives and grow fruits and vegetables. Is that
I would
because
say
that those jobs are beneath them?
absolutely that's what they feel. Absolutely, the only industry
And
where
if
I
it's
say,
beneath them, then who?
well, I mean, the only industry where I say where it still might have some romance to it is in winemaking. Where, hey, this is, I grew these grapes, we crushed these grapes and we bottled them and made this beautiful wine. That's all in the romance of things. But outside of that, no one wants to sit there and say, hey, I raise cattle, or, maybe say that maybe cattle might be, lamb, the specialty things. But on average, they say I'm a chicken farmer, that I grow potatoes, that I grow corn. And my corn also does grits and meal and hominy and all that stuff. No one says that. But you and I, and chefs alike, we talk about those farmers even more. But if it wasn't for the migrant workers, the immigrant workers, and people of that sort, there would be no food waste. There'd be no food stuff. It's not a Star Trek where we got a food replicator. You know,
No.
so
It is
I get
scary
what
to
you're saying.
find out how.
Yeah.
And it's scary to find out how immigrants, are being run out of this country. Even those who have been here for such a long time, and how is that going to affect the way we eat, how we eat, how expensive we eat, how expensive food becomes. Um, we talk about food deserts um, being in minority communities and especially Black and Brown communities. But then, if we have no farmers we talk about Whole Foods being one of the biggest conglomerates in terms of organic foods. How is that going to change if we don't have the farmers and to grow these products? What are we going to do then?
Well, I mean, the thing is that's I don't know if we are interested in that as a country, where it only affects us here, it affects rural hospitals. I mean, Dollar General is still the number one food source in for a lot of places in rural America compared to any place else. And when you think about it from that, and then you say that these people have to go to the hospital, and why they're going to the hospital, 90% of it is diet, and we know that, and they're eating this food waste. So, yes, you want to get rid of the immigrants, get rid of the farms, all that stuff. Make sure that you're building an industrial hospital complex in order to take care of people, because that's the only result that we're going to have if you're interested in people. And I believe that's where we'll leave this conversation. Roots Heart Soul Podcast. Todd, Chef Todd Richards, of course, the great Chef Stephan. Our goes so fast when it's just you and I, man. We got about a couple minutes here. Episode 37, right? Season 2, 37, man. Wrap us up.
We want to take the time especially in those moments when you and I don't have a guest, to even more stress to our audience how much they are important to us and how much we appreciate their support. So if you like the type of conversations that Chef Todd and I are having, whether it's us two or with some of the most amazing guests that we've had so far, click the like button, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support. We thank you for the opportunity to come to your home every Tuesday night and talk about the things that we are most passionate about. Again, thank you for joining us. Follow us on social media, Instagram, Roots Heart and Soul Podcast, on YouTube, on Facebook, and our professional social media channels as well, at Chef Todd Richards and chefstephan.it. We bid you good night and see you next Tuesday.
Shout out to Armin, of course, who produces this wonderful show on Heritage Radio Network. See everyone in a week or so. Talk soon.